Burnout is very real, and I want to take this moment to talk to you directly about my story and how I lost 2 years of my life to burnout. And if you're going through some of these feelings, or if you're on the journey of healing from burnout right now and you found this video, welcome. There's no script that I have written for this video. I'm just going to wing it and speak from the heart because it's something that I feel compelled to do and something that I want to share, especially in a world where it's celebrated to go after the things you want. You only get one shot at life and you have to push no matter how you feel. It's almost like we spend so much time idolizing this vision of who we could be if we had more money, or this other stuff in our lives, that we don't really realize we need to take care of ourselves along the way. So I want to talk about some of the things I went through. They were like the red flag moments, or if like you're looking at life as a car and there was this check engine light that was flashing. These little moments of intuition, of something that was trying to speak up to tell me, like, dude, if you keep going down this path and ignoring me, this is not going to end well. And I also want to talk about how long it took me to recover, because I don't know if there's enough people doing that. And it's something that's very real, and especially for us creatives or self-employed people. So I've been self-employed since 2013. I used to make videos for business owners. I ran a video production company, and I started dabbling in online. I wrote an ebook on how to sell video production. I started talking about that sort of stuff on YouTube, and little did I know that little adventure of something I wanted to talk about led to me ended up building this business that was helping customers all around the world. It was a business that allowed me to do over 7 figures in revenue in 2.5 years. And like, by the outside looking in, it was a very successful business every year. I would say by the middle, or like the 2/3 mark of the year of 2019, is when I started to get those little glimpses that things were not right, and that I needed to have a hard look in the mirror and evaluate what's going on in my life. I mean, looking back now, it's easy to see those moments, but the worst part was, in those moments, I tend to be very stubborn, and I just told that little voice to just, shh, it's okay. If you just work a little bit harder, if you show up for your customers, you add value to the world, as business owners say, you work on your sales goals, you work on getting a house, all those things, it will get better. The writing was on the wall from 2019, but I kept pushing through till the inevitable crash and burn in March of 2021. Things eventually soured between my business partner and I. He was doing some things that were not really congruent with the identity of who I was and what our business was about, and we ended up splitting ways, and as a result, I closed that business down. I decided that, okay, this is your chance. This is your moment to go forth and explore this thing that you've been wanting to do since 2019. But I also knew internally that I was just mentally exhausted. So I said to myself, dude, like, take the next 6 weeks off. Just take the month of April off and, into mid-May. And then, you can hop back on the bicycle, so to say, and focus on business and regrouping and focusing on the next adventure that you want to explore. It sounds like a very logical thing to do, right? However, my mind and my body had other plans, because the rest of 2021 was arguably the worst year of my life, as far as like my personal experience of life goes. I remember each day I would sit in a recliner chair that I have back here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but I would sit there just waiting as the world passed me by. I had zero desire to do anything. I couldn't find motivation to do anything. I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to talk to my friends. I barely wanted to be around even my fiance at the time. We're married now. And thank God she was so supportive as she was, because she really was a rock that helped me get through this. But I spent so much time just feeling completely numb and exhausted. And like, I just was having this out-of-body experience where, like, imagine if you're playing a video game and you've got the controller and you move the joysticks around and the character moves, right? And it's like you're pushing the buttons. But for me, someone's moving the controller, but the body's not moving. And it's like, in my brain, mentally, I know what to do to move forward in business and things like that, for example. But I just couldn't. I felt like there was something just holding me back that just had me held down. That was something that was really hard to deal with, as somebody who's had a history of just making shit happen and being able to push against obstacles to make things occur in my life. I wish there was an easy way to say it, but there's no magical moment when you know that you're cured of burnout. In fact, I feel like that year drastically shifted the tonality of my life, which I know probably won't make the most sense, but that's the only way I can describe it. It's almost like I had to learn how to live again. It was like I'd spent all of this time of my life investing skills in this character build of Marcus into business and money and the relationship with my wife, but definitely the main focus was on business and money, and that I guess the fear of the future of like, what happens if things dry up? You got to make the most of it while the sun's out, right? And when your body just shuts down and says, dude, I don't care what you think you want to do, it's not happening, things get really scary. On top of that, I mean, I was diagnosed with clinical depression the year before, and I've regularly been working with a counselor. So that whole year where I was going through that burnout phase as well, I was on regular calls. I was going through weekly conversations with him and talking about this pain that I had in terms of like the disconnect between knowing what I can do and then being able to execute and go after it and start pursuing. You know, even things like picking up some freaking laundry in the middle of the room or tidying up a little mess felt like a mountain for me to climb over. I don't really have like a 5-step formula for how to deal with burnout, but for me, if I was to share like what were the things that worked, I feel like the first step was acknowledging how I felt, and that even though I felt crappy, it was okay that I was feeling that. I feel like we have so much of this narrative forced on us that we always have to be smiling, we always have to put on the best face, and I think it leads to us not honoring or acknowledging our true feelings and what's going on. But when you take a moment to acknowledge, you know what, my heart's not in this, I don't want to be here, what could I do to start moving away from that rather than just pushing that down and continuing doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? Things get really crazy. The other thing that was really hard for me to do, and this sounds stupid to say it, but I had to learn how to play again. In terms of I had to learn how to do things that weren't associated with a monetary value and be okay with the fact that I was just doing it for enjoyment's sake, and that enjoyment was something that was like nutrients for the soul, so to say. If you're self-employed, my God, the idea of like, oh, I'm playing a video game, but I could be working on my business right now, like that narrative that we tell ourselves as the self-employed folks anyways, the judgment that we put on ourselves it's unfair, and it's this unsustainable view on life. On top of that, I had to really redefine what entrepreneurship means to me. The Marcus of older years was very financially motivated. I was always pushing myself to see what was possible. You know, I would be surrounded by people who were aspiring for great things, and I would be around people who were like, oh, we just did a 6-figure month. And in my brain, I was like, oh, how do I do a 6-figure month? How do I start accomplishing some of those things? And just chasing these metrics blind because, I don't know, I thought maybe there'd be some fulfillment in it. Having to actually sit down with a pen and paper and write the shit that actually matters to you, and then acknowledging it. And then even more than that, acknowledging that maybe what you've been doing for the last 3, 5, 10 years is way out of alignment with that. It's a really hard pill to swallow. It sucks. There's a lot of guilt, a lot of beating yourself up, a lot of pity for yourself. But I also feel like you have to go through that to be able to emerge on the other side. These days, what business looks like for me is night and day different than who I was a few years ago. I know that my focus and my energy still struggles to this day. Even though I'm on the other side of burnout, I feel like, and I have that sense of direction, and I'm, you know, making these YouTube videos again and talking to people and just really connecting back to the things that excite me. I know that I can't just do things the way it was before. So I just need to explore what does that look like moving forward. For me, for example, the past year, I've been working with 14 clients doing one-on-one coaching, which is a very far departure from what I was doing before. A business that actually brought in 6 figures in a month once, you know, $115,000 in a month was fucking crazy. And doing something where you make like 70 grand for an entire year, but forcing yourself to be okay with that and to just chill the hell out and see what would happen if you lived your life intentionally with that number, and then judge yourself or your progress at the end of the year and say, did I need more? Do I need less? And starting to look at those things and building it for yourself. It's so important to go through, or at least it was for me. The wild thing that I found happened when I spent that this past year, intentionally only working with a handful of people and still having a lot of free time, there was these old ways or these old thought patterns that I had ingrained that I had to deal with about entrepreneurship and business and what success was as a human being. And it took a lot of time being in those silent moments and forcing myself to just take a big step back, to slow the fuck down and be okay with it and know that, you know, 1 or 2 years like that's not going to be the end of the world. You already have built these other businesses. You know what to do and go build those things if you're ready to move on to those things again. But just like honor what you're going through. Explore what your life could look like if you gave yourself permission to live how you actually wanted to live. And you started aligning the things you did for money with allowing you to live more of that lifestyle. It's really easy to lose the human connection. And I hope that this video finds you well. And if you're going through some of these feelings right now, or if you're navigating it, please do not beat yourself up. Know that you just have to take this one day at a time. Life can get better on the other side. It may look drastically different than how you expect it to, but know that that's part of the journey of your evolution as a human being into making life happen for you instead of on someone else's journey. So thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.